So if you're shopping for a compact crossover that you also want to be a little bit rugged and off-roady, your options are somewhat limited. There's the Nissan Rogue Rock Creek, there's the Bronco Sport, and then there is the 2026 GMC Terrain AT4. In today's video, I'll tell you everything I like about it, a couple things I wish were a little bit better, and why you might want to consider this as your next daily driver. Alright, so what exactly is AT4? Well, it is GMC speak for their off-road version. Think of it as kind of the trail boss. It's kind of their entry-level off-road, not their full badass type of off-roader like the AT4X that you find in the GMC Sierra. This is kind of the, gateway drug into getting into off-roading. And this is the first time, or I should say the first model year that is offered on the third generation Terrain that was updated in 2025. In fact, they introduced two new trim levels in 2026, being the AT4 and the Denali. In 2025, you could only get the base elevation trim level. And so this is a little bit of a different approach compared to the Denali. They're similarly priced, but this is more of that rugged off-roadiness versus that luxuriousness that you expect from the Denali. So let's kick things off talking about the exterior design and some of the things I love about it. All right, so starting off with the exterior, I think it's a really handsome looking vehicle. Now, if you guys don't know, this shares pretty much the same platform as the Chevy Equinox. And I reviewed that about a year or so ago, and I was very impressed with it. I thought it was a great looking vehicle. I honestly think this looks even better, and I like the Equinox, but this just looks brawnier, and I'm buying into the marketing. This does look a little bit more professional grade. Now, starting off with this update that they did in 2025, you do have LED daytime running lamps and LED headlamps, and they have this cool sweeping feature as you unlock the vehicle. I'm going to try to throw it up on the screen as you approach and walk away or lock it. That's bespoke to the Denali and the AT4 trim level. And then the AT4 has its own unique front fascia, so you do have these gloss black accents. Of course, you got the big GMC logo in the center, and then I do like how this black accent or the piano black kind of wraps around kind of in the circular shape into the fog lights located down here. But the front end just looks very brawny, very muscular. You also get red recovery hooks and a gloss black front bumper on the AT4 trim level. So if you guys want something more chrome, you're going to stick to the Denali. If you want something more rugged, you're going to go for this trim level. Now, this vehicle also has a skid plate located underneath that is part of the AT4 trim level. Not quite sure if anybody's really going to be bashing this thing off-road. And then in terms of the exterior color, it's really unique. It's kind of like that sandstone color you find in some modern vehicles, but it's a little bit more grayish, and it's under certain light conditions just looks really nice. It's kind of like a tan. It's called Riverstone Metallic. So if you guys are at the dealer, you want to see what it looks like in person because the camera just doesn't seem to capture it very well. That's the color you're going to be looking for. As we come across the side, I do like this cool touch. It's silly, but I like how they have these side marker lights integrated into the wheel well fenders, very reminiscent of their heavy-duty pickup trucks because of the width. They add those, but I like how it's added onto this small little baby Terrain. Just makes it look a little bit more unique. Now, talking about the wheel and tire selection, also unique to the AT4 trim level, is these 17-inch wheels wrapped around General Grabber all-terrain tires. So these are 235/65, and they've got a little bit of sidewall to them. They're definitely beefier than the ones you would find on the Elevation or the Denali trim level. I think the Denali comes with 19s, and so this is definitely speaking to that kind of off-roadness of the AT4. Now, this one also has the two-tone roof, so it's got this black metallic roof, and I like how it wraps into that rear window, rear quarter panel, and I think it's just kind of a boxy, attractive looking vehicle. I think this thing is going to sell well, but pricing is one thing we'll talk about later, which might be its kind of limiting factor. So as we come across the rear end, the design language carries over. It's similar to the prior generation, but a little bit more refined. You do have LED tail lamps and running lamps as well. And then you've got your side marker lights down there. You got Terrain along with the AT4 badge. Then your exhaust pipe is kind of tucked underneath, located over on the passenger side over there. Now, I do like that you have this integrated roof spoiler. You've also got your digital rear view camera mirror. That's part of the technology package that this vehicle comes with. And I don't know, let me know your thoughts. There's a better shot of what the paint job looks like. I think the exterior is great. It's about 181 inches long, and it's about 68 or so inches tall. So pretty on par with all of the competition. I have been told that the AT4 does have a small suspension lift, which is a little bit different than the Equinox active trim level I reviewed last year. That one didn't come with a skid plate or any type of suspension lift to my understanding. So this is a little bit more off-road worthy than the active trim level of its cousin, being the Chevy Equinox. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the design of the exterior down below. All right, jumping under the hood of the Terrain, it's gonna be a familiar place if you guys recall my video on the Equinox, because, well, it's the same exact powertrain. Real quick, I am gonna knock GMC on having this hood prop. I don't see why at this price point they couldn't just include hood struts to keep the hood open. But anyways, I digress. What we have here is a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that produces 175 horsepower and 203 pound-feet of torque. And that's sent through an 8-speed automatic transmission, and all-wheel drive is on this particular model, this one being the AT4. Now, I specify that because you can get this in front wheel drive, but then you're gonna have the same horsepower, 175, but your torque is gonna go down to 184 because you're gonna be paired to a CVT transmission. So if you guys hate CVTs like I do, and you need all-wheel drive because you live in a place like Utah, then you're definitely gonna want an option for that all-wheel drive, because not only does it improve the on-road handling when you're going through snow, but it also gives you better performance since you have a conventional torque converter 8-speed automatic. In terms of fuel economy here, you're really not losing much when you jump from front-wheel drive to all-wheel drive. This thing is about 24 in the city, 26 on the highway for a combined 25. And then because you can toggle between all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive mode inside of the vehicle, your MPG is only about 1 miles per gallon worse than if you chose the front-wheel drive. So I just think that upgrade is definitely worth it. In terms of the fuel tank here, it's just shy of 16 gallons, and this thing weighs just around 3,600 pounds. Now, we'll talk more about driving dynamics when we get behind the wheel, but this thing's okay in terms of performance. 0 to 60 is just around 8.6 seconds, and my only complaint is the fact that they don't offer any other type of powertrain option, specifically hybrid or a more powerful version. I mean, the prior generation used to have a 2-liter turbocharged, and I think they also had a V6 available as well, so now all of those are gone for simplification purposes. I just don't know if that's enough. Now, one thing to point out about the all-wheel drive is not only do you have more performance, all-wheel drive capability, but your towing capacity goes up because you have a torque converter automatic. It's now 1,500 pounds in the all-wheel drive versus somewhere around 800 pounds in the front-wheel drive version. Next up, I want to jump on the inside where it really does not disappoint, but I first want to show you the key. This is the typical GM key, lock, unlock. You got your power lift gate. This does have the feature where you can walk up to it, and it's kind of a smart tailgate or lift gate where if you stand there long enough, it will automatically open up. I think those features are kind of gimmicky though, personally speaking. You do have your remote start and your panic button. Then you got GMC written on the back, professional grade. So jumping inside, I do like the door handle. It's kind of nice and brawny and square-like. The interior is really nice. In fact, I do think it's a little bit better than the Equinox, which kind of explains a little bit of the price difference between the two. We'll touch more on that later. Starting off with the door panel, you do have soft touch injection molded plastic up here. You do have the kind of like this fake, I don't know, aluminum or carbon fiber trim. It does look really nice. It is just plastic, but it makes it feel a little bit more premium. I do like in this AT4 trim level, you kind of have this cool greenish tone. You carry that over into the seats as well, but that's a unique touch. I haven't seen the green color used in AT4 before. I have seen this kind of copper stitching used, and it carries over even into the baby Terrain as well. So really nice attention to detail. You have your typical door locks and lock and unlock that you find in a lot of GM products. Same with your window switches and your mirror controls. Automatic one touch on the driver. Everything else you have to hold down. Then down here you have hard touch plastic, which is to be expected. Pretty decent sized cup holder and storage compartment, along with your button to activate your power lift gate. Now coming over to the speaker setup, this is a 6-speaker audio system. I think the Equinox was offered with an 8-speaker. I was not able to find that on the Terrain though, which is a little bit surprising. But as we step in, I'm going to show off these seats. Again, a little bit more of that green coloration. It's kind of hard to capture on camera. You've got a mix of some cloth with some vinyl. This is perforated vinyl. This isn't natural leather, but it's fine. I haven't really noticed any difference. I don't find like I sweat in it or anything like that. It feels a little bit more premium. You got some more of that copper stitching with some black, I think they call it Evotech material. It's kind of that waterproof material. The Equinox also had some really nice seats. And then I just really like that green color. You also have AT4 on the headrest. Very nice and soft and cushy. And also these seats are incredibly soft. I noticed this on the Equinox as well, but they're like memory foam. I do think the thigh support is a little bit short. I'm not even that tall. I'm 5'9". So if you're taller than I am, you might find this seat to be a little bit short, but otherwise seats are perfect. Very cushy, 8-way power adjustable, 2-way lumbar support. I mean, what more do you need? Now, my vehicle also comes with these all-weather floor mats, which is an option. I honestly would probably pass on it. You can get some in the aftermarket. But let's step inside and show off this interior because it is nicer than the Equinox, again, carrying over that GMC professional grade status. So starting off with the steering wheel, you got your rubber center section with GMC embossed right there. Leather wrapped, it is heated on the AT4, that's included as standard. And then your typical GM switches. So let me turn this vehicle on. You, of course, have push to start. Turning this vehicle on the left-hand side is how you're going to control your cruise control. Adaptive cruise control is standard. In fact, GMC touts that they have like 16 different safety features, including blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise control, pedestrian detection, etc., etc. Truth be told, most manufacturers now include all those things as standard, so I can't say it's like anything really special, and we'll touch more on that when we get behind the wheel as we're driving on the freeway. You also can set your gap, and then you can, of course, turn on or turn off your adaptive cruise control. You also kind of have like this low range gear. I don't really know what you'd use that for since there really isn't a locker or a low range inside of the vehicle. On the right hand side, this is your multimedia controls, also how you turn on your heated steering wheel and your telephone functionality. Now, this is what will control your pretty decently sized 11-inch gauge cluster display. Same thing that was on the Equinox, so you can push this button to cycle through your GPS. You can cycle through your adaptive cruise control if you really want that, kind of a more center-focused screen with your speedometer. I've personally found myself using this GPS screen. It's really nice that it's full screen. Behind this, you have your windshield wiper stock, your turn signal stock as well. You have the high beam functionality. However, to turn on and off your automatic headlamps, you have to do it with the touchscreen. That's GMC's new shtick, which is a little bit odd. Then you have your gear selector over here. It's moved from the center arm console, which gives you a little bit more space. However, I find that this one is a little bit flimsy. It's been my complaint with a lot of GM products. This gear selector just needs a little bit more work. You do have paddle shifters here, which I guess makes sense since this is a conventional torque converter automatic, although I don't really think anybody's going to be using that. It's more of just a gimmick or something like that. You also have buttons located on the back of the steering wheel in typical GM fashion. Your seek and track buttons are located right below this minus or the downshift paddle shifter, and then you get your volume controls over here on the right. And then real quick, before we move on to the dash, you have your emergency parking brake and you have your mode selector. So this one being the AT4, you also have the terrain mode, and so that allows for more off-roading because of course you're going to be taking your terrain off into some terrains. You also have the all-wheel drive button to turn that on, auto hold for when you're at a stoplight, your remote start stop, and your brightness indicator of the gauge cluster. You got some vents over here. And then this is all soft touch injection molded plastic. It's a little bit harder over here, but it is still faux leather wrapped, and I do like that you still have this contrast brown stitching. So really good attention to detail. In fact, all of this is soft touch. Only back here do you start getting that hard touch plastic material. There is no head-up display despite it looking like there might be. It's more of Chevy's emergency feature where if you're about to crash into somebody, it's going to light up a red light onto the windshield to alert you as kind of like an emergency. A lot of manufacturers do it on the gauge cluster. GMC does it on the windshield. I feel like a head-up display would be nice to have as an option, but it's not even available on the 2026 Terrain. And then over onto the passenger side, more soft touch material. You also, I'm noticing now in this light, have a little bit more green with some of that Evotech material. Just really nice uses of material. This is what I like from manufacturers, is to, not everything has to be leather, not everything has to be like fake leather or vinyl. It's a nice mix of different things. That way, whatever surface you touch, you have different materials. You got some more chrome here, some of that same plastic you found on the door panel. Just overall, very, very appealing. And then similar to their trucks, like the GMC Sierra, you got your vent stack located up top over here. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. I've been hiding it for way too long. This is a 15-inch infotainment display, and it is awesome. It's an awesome system. I'm not going to go as far as saying it's perfect, but it's damn near perfect. I really like the way it's oriented here. If you guys remember, in the Equinox, it's a horizontal screen and it's only about 11.3 inches, which was perfectly fine for that car. But this one is 15 inches. This is the Mac Daddy. I want to say this is probably the largest screen for a vehicle of this size, a compact crossover. And it's awesome. It's got GMC's latest software, which includes a Google-based operating system, so you could ask it questions like, hey Google, what day is tomorrow?
It's Tuesday, September 9th, 2025.
Awesome. And super snappy, as you can tell. I mean, I didn't fast forward that or anything. You've also got wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. You can hit your main home screen, which shows you the built-in Google navigation, along with some widgets down here that you can customize. For me right now, it's audio and my trip information, but you can hit this pen button and you can, cycle through a different screen over there. And then when you hook up Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, it's going to light up over here and it takes up the full screen, but it's very nice UI. It does a really good job of letting you switch between the two, which is always one of my complaints. Down here, this is where you're going to get kind of a little bit annoyed, where this is some of your quick access controls, which includes your auto high beams, your fog lights, your dome lights. Some of the things that used to have physical touches to it are now integrated into the touchscreen, which is unfortunate. And then you do have a quick access button for your headlamps and then your lane keep assist functionality. Over here in the center is your volume knob, very reminiscent of the Mustang Mach-E. It's kind of attached to the screen over here, but I like it. It's a little bit on the flimsier end, doesn't have too much resistance, but not bad at all. This isn't a button though. It would be cool if this served multiple functions. And then you have your quick button for your dome lights inside of the vehicle, and then a settings button where you can go through, everything you want in this car, from all your sounds and notifications, etc. Down here below that is where you have some buttons that are always going to be located in this bottom section, and that is for your climate control for the most part. So you do have your heated seats functionality over here. If you get the Denali, you're also going to get ventilated seats. The AT4 does not come with that. And then you can, of course, change the positioning of where the airflow is going. And then I like that not only do you have touchscreens controls over here, so you can tap up and down on the vents, but you can also toggle through them using these rubberized switches, and these feel really nice. I like how much resistance they have to them. You have dual zone climate control, of course, then you have your windshield heat and defroster located on the passenger side, and then this is all wrapped in that kind of same green material. It is leather wrap, or it is faux leather wrapped, I should say, so it is soft touch material. And then you have a pretty big tray here. This is what happens when you can move the gear selector up here. You have this large tray over here for you to throw your wallet, your keys, etc. You got some USB and USB-C ports in there. Behind that, you got some 2 cup holders. And then I should point out, let me get my right angle over here, is you have this large storage compartment located underneath the center arm console. So you can throw a purse down there, your wallet, kind of hide it out of plain sight. It is a pretty nice place to store some stuff. Wireless charging pad is included on the AT4 levels and above. And then a nice leather, faux leather wrapped, I keep calling it leather, but center arm console with some brown copper stitching. And it's pretty decently sized. You also have this little tray that you can hang out over here if you want to store some change or something like that. And then you also have a light in there as well. Over on the passenger side, typical glove compartment. It isn't lined in felt or anything like that, but nothing too crazy. It's on par with the competition. Up above you, this one has the technology package, which means it does come with a digital rear view camera mirror. GMC always does a very good job with that. And then you got your home link system located over here as well. Moving up above, there's not too much to report down here because they moved a lot of the buttons into the infotainment screen, but you do have this optional panoramic sunroof. This can be optional on any trim level, and it's quite nice. It does make the cabin very airy and light, although it is quite warm outside, so we're probably going to close it up. But it is opening as well, so you can open that up and enjoy cool breeze like the convertibles. And then opening this up, you have your sunglass holder. Nothing too much else to report up front. Let's jump into the second row and show you some of the cool features there. All right, jumping into the second row, it's almost as nice as the first row, but they did have to cut costs somewhere, so this isn't as soft as a material as the first row. You do still have the same kind of faux carbon fiber plastic trim piece, still some nice aluminum door handles, and I do like this green that carried over from the first row, along with that kind of waterproof material with the accent stitching. So it's not like super cheaped out for the second row. Still have a decent sized cup holder slash storage compartment and an extension of your 6-speaker audio system, which by the way is just all right. Like, it's not bad, it's not great, it's just kind of average. Talking about these seats, still just as nice as the first row. You got some more of that green coloration with a little bit of the cloth, some of that Evotech waterproof material, and headrest is still nice and cushy. What I do like is, as you can see, there's a car seat over there. Very easy access if you are a young parent. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. This makes it really easy to get a car seat in and out. For comparison, my Rivian, it's kind of like tucked in there really tight, and I have to always struggle to get the hooks in. This makes it super easy, and you can just throw these plastic pieces into the cup holder over there. Now, keep in mind, this is a compact crossover, folks. Take a look at how much legroom is back here. I mean, it always surprises me how much compact crossovers have grown over the years. This is massive. Tons amount of space over here. Now, GM says somewhere near, 39, 40 inches of space. It's so hard to really get an accurate number because those numbers can easily be manipulated, but it's a super massive amount of space. Sorry for the glare on the camera, it's just that time of day. You do have some pockets over here on the driver and passenger side, and thank you for adding rear air vents. All this time, affordable, non-luxury cars didn't have air vents in the back, and you're finally seeing those being introduced, and it's a very welcome feature. It's just necessary to have air vents in the second row, especially when your vehicle is so large like it is here. You do have a storage compartment located down here. Would have been nice to have a household power outlet, but this is just enough space, maybe throw a wallet or something like that. I do like they've included USB-C ports, but where's the USB ports, folks? Where's the people that still have USB ports? That's what I want to know. Over here you have a soft center arm console with 2 cup holders, nice and leather wrapped, but there's plenty of width in this vehicle to be able to easily fit 3 adults in the back seat, which is hard to say in a lot of compact crossovers. You also have a flat floor over here, which is surprising because this is an all-wheel drive vehicle. So very good job, GMC, for creating tons of interior space. I mean, this is reminiscent of a mid-size crossover when it comes to interior room than a compact crossover. Also, I have the roof closed, but it does stretch all the way above pretty much the second row seats. So really nice and airy if you have that open. All right, let's talk about the cargo area. Now I've locked the vehicle. I'm walking up to it with the key in my pocket. Let's see if it recognizes. No, yeah. Always, these features never work. I'm never a huge fan of those. But anyways, you can easily push the button and it's an automatic lift gate. Tons of space back here too. I just don't know how they pack so much space in what's called a compact, but I guess compact is a very loose term. You do have some lights over here on the left and the right hand side. In terms of cargo volume here, it's just around 29, 30 cubic feet of space. If you fold down the second rows, you can get about 64 cubic feet of space. Pretty on par with the competition. Nothing class leading or anything like that. You do have some space located underneath where you typically find a spare tire. And I don't see a fix-a-flat kit, but it might be located. Oh, there is a spare tire. Lo and behold, there it is. That is nice that they have that, and you still have some storage capabilities as well. And then you have some tie-down hooks located over here on the left and the right-hand side. But not too much else to report back here. Again, on the AT4, it would have been nice to have a household power outlet, but you do get a 12-volt at least power outlet, and you can use like a converter or something like that to get a little bit more juice. But again, if this being an off-roading kind of overlanding vehicle, household power outlets are a must, and I'm just surprised they don't have it on this GMC Terrain. All right, next up, let's talk about the pricing, because that's where it gets a little bit complicated. So as I almost fall over onto the side of the vehicle. So the Terrain in the elevation trim starts on par with the competition, just around $29,000, $30,000. You're probably realistically not going to find one under $32,000. When you jump up to the next trim level, which is the AT4, it's a huge price hike. We're looking nearly $10,000. This thing is just around $39,000 starting price. That's quite a bit more than a lot of the competition. Even the cousin, being the Equinox Active, starts just around $33,000, $34,000. So you're looking at about a $5,000 premium to get into one of these over the Active. Now, the Active does not have skid plates. It doesn't look quite as brawny. It doesn't have as large of an infotainment screen on the inside. So you're definitely getting some more features with it, but that becomes kind of a hard bargain. If you step up to the Denali, you're starting just over $41,000. Now, this particular vehicle, after destination, with the optional panoramic sunroof, with the technology package, this one's just around $43,500. So it's a pretty impressive car, comes with a lot of cool features, but it's not cheap. That being said, the average car nowadays is just around $48,000. So you're still getting quite a few features, an attractive looking styling, and some off-road chops for less than the price of an average new vehicle. Kind of hard to beat, even though in my mind, $43,000 seems like a lot of money for a compact crossover. I don't think this thing is quite compact anymore, and I don't think it's just another compact crossover. This thing is a little bit more special than that. All right, now with all that being said, my argument kind of starts to fall apart when you get behind the wheel. Let's talk about that. So setting off in the 2026 GMC Terrain, there's a lot to love about this vehicle, and apologies for the glaring sunlight. That's what happens when you film at 6:40 in the afternoon in the middle of September. What I do like about the interior is the size. Very nice. In fact, this might be a little bit big for some people, but that's why, you know, Chevy offers some other models in their lineup that are a bit smaller. But what I like is the use of materials. It feels very premium. It does feel like the interior of a $43,000 to $45,000 vehicle, aside from just a couple touches like the flimsy gear selector, and that's honestly pretty much it, because even some of the hard touch plastics, they're a little bit out of the way, so you don't feel like you're cheapening out. You kind of feel like you're in a near luxury vehicle, which is what GMC is. Where I think it falls apart for me a little bit is the powertrain. More on that in just a second. Okay, so we're gonna get this thing up to 35 miles per hour and drive over some train tracks and see what it feels like in terms of feedback inside of the cabin. So here we come up in 3, 2, 1. Really not that bad. Pretty much on par with the competition. I would say I've driven in GMCs that are a little bit softer than this, but I can't say it's rough by any means. Honestly, you hear more than you feel inside of the cabin. And then I gotta say again, these seats are incredibly cushy, very comfortable and soft. They make it easier to take this thing on longer road trips and not feel super fatigued. I really do enjoy these seats, just wish a little bit more thigh support. Now, in terms of road noise, at lower speeds, it's not very noticeable. I have noticed at higher speeds, I'm talking freeway, you know, these all-terrain tires are a little bit louder than just your standard all seasons that you get on all the other trim levels. You're gonna hear a little bit more of that, and that's just the sacrifice you get when you're dealing with a more off-road trim. Now we're gonna do a little 360 here. Very good turning radius as we're driving into the sun. Again, reminiscent of a compact crossover, even though it feels large on the inside, very maneuverable and easy to drive in city traffic. All right, so here we are about to get onto the freeway, and I can show you how this thing feels when accelerating. Now, unfortunately, you do have a large amount of different drive modes, but none of them are for sport modes. Also, I failed to mention there is an off-road mode. I don't know why I focused on terrain when there's an off-road mode, but we're gonna keep it in normal mode, and I am going to stomp on it as we go onto this freeway on-ramp. It is a little bit steep, but starting about 25 miles an hour and gunning it, pedal to the floor. We hit 60, and we're at 70. Just shy of 70, 69 miles an hour. So that's my main complaint. It's not the fact that this is a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. Is that enough power for a vehicle of this size? It probably is. My complaint is the fact that the competition offer more options. In fact, this type of powertrain is my complaint with General Motors overall. Same thing with the Acadia that I reviewed and the Traverse. Those things have a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. I feel like GM does really well in designing electric vehicles. They have some really good compelling options. They have some really good big displacement engines, the V8s that they have in their pickup trucks and the Corvettes. Where I think the GM is lacking a little bit is vehicles like this, where it would be nice to have a slightly peppier, punchier powertrain in something like this, and definitely in something like the Acadia or the Traverse. They need a more updated, fuel-efficient V6 if that's what they're going after. Their 4-cylinders just don't seem to be cutting it for me. This 4-cylinder is fine for day-to-day driving and, you know, just as a daily driver, but when you're trying to merge onto the freeway, pass somebody, when you're trying to make a left turn as there's oncoming traffic coming your way, this thing's a little bit rough around the edges. It's laggy for sure. There is quite a bit of turbo lag. And it's also quite jerky. When it downshifts, you kind of feel yourself going into the headrest. I mean, it doesn't feel as refined as the interior and the exterior lead you to believe. It needs a little bit more work in that front. It feels like a non-luxury vehicle when it comes to its powertrain. And the reason I'm nitpicking this on the GMC Terrain and General Motors in general is because the competition offer more options. And that was my complaint with the Nissan Rogue as well. You've got hybrid options from Toyota and Honda. You've got a 2-liter turbocharged engine on the Volkswagen. This thing is just kind of at the bottom of the pack when it comes to the 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's just, this vehicle would need to have some sort of hybrid option to justify its elevated price tag, because this is more expensive than the RAV4. Now, does it have more off-road chops? Yes, especially because Toyota got rid of the TRD off-road version of the RAV4 as of 2025. So this is definitely more capable, but it's missing in that powertrain options that a lot of the Japanese competition offer. And I think that's why the Japanese are oftentimes kicking the butt of the American vehicles, is because they offer more powertrain choices. So enough of my soapbox on the powertrain. Again, it's fine if you're looking just for a regular daily driver. It's perfectly adequate. But for a vehicle that's a little bit more special, like the AT4, it would have been nice to have some more power, some more differentiation from the competition. Anyways, the next minor complaint I have about this vehicle is some of the safety features, which is odd because that is one of the things that GMC touts in this vehicle, is how many safety features come standard. Where I think it's lacking a little bit is the fact that this vehicle is missing lane centering on the highway. And I wasn't able to find it on any of the trim levels, which is surprising because in GMC's lineup, most of the Denali's, like the Acadia I drove, have lane centering. In fact, they have Super Cruise. It would be really beneficial for them to throw Super Cruise into the Denali version of the Terrain, but for some reason they're holding out. They're not putting Super Cruise in there. This vehicle doesn't even have lane centering, which the competition does come with. Not all of them, but some of them offer lane centering or highway assist when you're driving on the freeway. This vehicle doesn't have it. And so it has lane keep assist, where it'll kind of nudge you back in the lane, and it's got lane departure warning. It'll even vibrate your seat when you're kind of veering off left or right. But it would be great if I could just hold on the steering wheel, it has haptic feedback, and it would keep me centered in the lane. It just doesn't do that. Kind of a miss on GMC's part. So what is the overall verdict? Do I recommend this vehicle? Is it better than the competition? Should I buy it? So if you're looking for a more unique vehicle, there's definitely fewer Terrains out there. I rarely see one on a daily basis than like RAV4, CRVs, even its cousin Equinox. You see way more of those than you do the Terrain. So if you're looking for something a little bit more unique, something with much more off-road capabilities than the competition. I mean, the closest thing to this would probably be the Bronco Sport, which is also a great vehicle, but I think this vehicle is a little bit larger and more practical on the inside. I mean, if you're looking for an overlander that you could probably stretch out in a little bit more easily, this thing is a better choice than the Bronco Sport. Other than that, there's really not that much competition. The Rogue Rock Creek is another one, but it has a very similar powertrain. So great off-road capability, relatively speaking, is another added bonus. And then if you're looking for a vehicle that not only has that, but also looks the part, because its exterior is very rugged and off-roady, its interior is very nice and well designed, well appointed, and you're looking for a vehicle with some of the best technology on the market in the compact crossover space, the Terrain is a buy. If you're looking for something with tons of different powertrain options, peppy engine, fuel efficiency, cutting edge in terms of powertrains, I would say you kind of have to pass on the GMC Terrain and its sibling because it doesn't offer it. Ultimately, if you're one of the buyers of a GMC Terrain, you're going to be very happy with it. It's a great vehicle. It's got great tech, very unique looking interior, exterior, near luxury for the most part. I mean, the only thing that I think is lacking is the powertrain in terms of luxuriousness. Other than that, this is as luxurious as it gets for a $43,000 car. You're going to be very happy with it. So let me know your thoughts on the GMC Terrain. Would you take this over the competition, and why? Or if you did purchase one of these, why did you pick it over some of the competition? I think that'll be very helpful for a lot of the viewers to know if you're in the market for one of these, because not everybody is looking at the Terrain. It's kind of passed on compared to the sea of compact crossovers, but I think it's up there as one of the best ones on the market, aside from a couple things that I pointed out in today's review. But if you guys enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the car-related videos, everything from car reviews to vehicles that I own and my honest, real-time feedback of things I like and dislike. And be sure to check me out on all of the social media, same as the YouTube channel name. But until next time, everybody, I hope you stay schwazy, stay healthy, have a wonderful day.